I never thought I would be into real estate. This was never my dream. I never thought I'd be here doing something like this. That safe and that secure job that you thought you had, it was never safe and it was never secure. I was going to not be a victim and I was going to do something that I could have my own way of having income. 30 days later, no shit, 30 days later, I walk out of there with a check for $20,000 and he gets 50% of that. And I'm like, I don't know what just happened, but can we do that again? Until you can deliver the same product consistently, you will never ever have a business and you guys will fail. None of this is happening by chance. This is a system. If I could do this in my business, this is the answer. Business should be 80% systematized, 20% humanized.
You get the people right, you get the systems right, success is inevitable. Welcome back to Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Rod Khleif and I'm absolutely thrilled you're here. And I'm really looking forward to this interview with my friend, Steve Rozenberg. So Steve is a former international commercial airline pilot, maybe currently. Are you currently a pilot? Currently yes. Still a pilot. You know, he's done a couple thousand doors, single family, multifamily, he's done all kinds of amazing stuff, owned a very large property management company that he sold to a much larger company. And so here we are, man.
Here we are. Thanks for having me, man.
Good to have you here, brother. So why don't you just tell us who you are?
Yeah,
in your
absolutely.
words, you know, give us a rundown on who Steve is and
yeah,
you know, why real estate and all that.
Well, you know, I never thought I would be into real estate, right? I'm one of those second generation type people that this was never my dream. I never thought I'd be here doing something like this because my only dream or passion growing up as a little kid was to be a pilot. I worked hard. I had that hard work ethic from my parents. I did everything I could. And at 25 years old, I was the second youngest person hired by this particular airline that I got hired with. Best job in the world. I was flying all over the globe. Wow. Safe, secure job, had a pension, had a retirement. I'm done. Wow. Everyone said, man, you're done. You're good. Until a day in history. And that day was 9/11. So 9/11 hit, which we all know was a tragedy.
Right.
For me, it happened 2 days after 9/11 because that was the day I got my furlough notice from the airlines. And basically said, hey, Steve, you know that safe and that secure job that you thought you had, it was never safe and it was never secure. And you're about to be on the street with 50,000 pilots. So good luck.
Wow.
So obviously shock and awe was an understatement. But, you know, I thought to myself, I didn't do anything to cause this. But now I'm a victim of this. And I realized this wasn't something like an industry, like we'll talk real estate. There's nothing like an industry was changing and this was 6 months. This was 2 days. I went from the best job in the world to saying, I'm going to be on the street
They didn't waste any time.
No.
I have to interrupt for 1 second because I got to share a story about my dad. So my dad worked for Continental for 36 years, Continental Airlines.
Yep.
He used to make us kids put our hands over our hearts when a bird flew by because you could tell them because they had the gold tail.
Proud bird with the golden tail.
Proud bird with the brass ass is really what we said. But he worked for him for 36 years and got laid off. Yeah. So what is job security? Please, your job security is between your freaking ears.
It's an illusion.
That's it.
And so I decided at that point that I was going to not be a victim and I was going to do something that I could have my own way of having income.
You're right.
I didn't know anything because the only thing I focused on my whole life was being a pilot.
Right.
All of a sudden, it's like a fish out of water. I'm looking for any kind of water to swim in. That turned into real estate. I just saw there was a lot of people that were wealthy. It coincided with being a pilot. I knew I was going to get my job back when the furloughs were up.
Right.
So I knew that was going to work. So I started reading everything I could. I read a book a week on real estate.
Wow.
Because back then, 2001, we didn't have YouTube and Facebook.
Right.
We had a building with books in it called the library. So I'd go to the library. I had to get my library card and I was a student again.
No kidding.
So I took classes. I went to, the weekend events and I was just consumed in this. And I thought, I'm ready to go. I paid for a mentor to teach me. It was like $10,000. This guy was going to teach me double escrow closes. And I'm like, I'm in.
Wholesaling.
Right. I'm like, I don't know what this means, but I'm in.
Wow.
The guy tells me, he says, Steve, if you do what I say, this will work. I'm like, well, I just gave you $10,000. Why would I not?
Right. Well, believe it or not, a lot of people pay and they don't do, which is, my Warrior coaching program. I mean, I'm proud of something, own upwards of 170 to 180,000 units. But there are, of course, even in there are people that don't do it. And I'm kicking them in the ass and, and everything else. But yeah.
So I do 30 days later, No shit. 30 days later, I'm sitting at a closing table with the phone in my hand. I've got a buyer and a seller, and we're doing a transaction. And I'm handing the phone to everyone because this guy, my mentor, is explaining to them what a double escrow close is.
Got it.
Next thing we know, I walk out of there with a check for $20,000 and he gets 50% of that.
Wow.
And I'm like, I don't know what just happened, but can we do that again?
Right.
He goes, Steve, we can do it as much as you want. And I said to him, I go, you must make a lot of people very wealthy. And he goes, you know what? Sadly, you're one of the few that actually takes it across the goal line. I'm like, I don't understand. He goes, you know what? He goes, if you figure it out, let me know. He goes, because that's the reality. So I kept learning more about different types of real estate transactions, options, flips, wholesales, all that stuff. I did very well. And I bought my first apartment complex with the money I made from wholesaling.
Good for you.
That got me in.
When was this? Give me
this
kind of
was
timeline.
2005.
Gotcha.
So this was 2002 to 2005.
Okay.
We owned the property. A church next door bought the property cash from us because they wanted a parking lot.
Got it. Wow.
So this happened in mid 2007.
Oh, that's good timing.
It just started dropping, and banks were starting to go under, and the church said, "We pay cash, we're good." Okay. So they gave us cash. Next thing you know, we had a lot of money. And as you know, real estate has a way that just when you think you're smart, it will come like a wrecking ball through your front door.
I'm a poster child for that one. Yeah.
Yes. So me and my business partner that we own the property with, we decided we're going to buy some single family houses because they're so cheap. And they're
now this is after the crash?
This is 2008.
Oh, before the crash.
Well, it's crashing.
Oh, it is crashing.
It's kind of crashing now. Yeah, at this time frame. So we decide, hey, I know how to negotiate and get deals. So why don't we just start buying a bunch of single family properties? We'll just, instead of flipping them and wholesaling them, we'll keep them. Great.
Those of you listening, I'm shaking my head because I know where this is going because I lived it.
Yes.
So, okay.
So next thing you know, we start buying houses and he says, hey, I found these great deals. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, they're called low income properties. He goes, we can make a lot of money. He goes, this is like a 55 to 60% cash on cash return.
Sure.
I'm like, well, why buy one? Let's buy as many as we can because we're smart. We just sold an apartment complex. We could walk through walls if we wanted to.
Right. Right. Real estate God was the word that I used.
Yeah, exactly. What could go wrong? So we start buying as many properties as we can. And we have about, I don't know, within about 6-7 months, we've got like 25 properties. We're the golden children of the Houston market because we're buying up all the crappy shithole properties that nobody wanted.
Wow.
And there's a reason they're boarded up, right? We're like, oh, we don't even need an inspection. We'll just buy it.
Wow.
So now we realize about 6 to 9 months later why people don't own these properties, and they're called tenants, and these tenants have issues and problems and challenges. And next thing you know, we start having little ripples of problems. We start having, non-payments, we have maintenance issues, and it just gets worse.
Drugs.
You name it.
Murder.
And you would think that after about, I don't know, we had like 25, 30 houses at the time, and we're like, oh, you know what? I know what we should do. We need to buy more because we're halfway through the mountain.
Double down.
Let's double down on this thing. And it was like throwing gasoline on a bonfire, and it just exploded in our faces.
Yeah.
So now we're into the 40, 50 property range.
Right.
And we cannot understand why this is not working. My wife says to me, Steve, if you buy another one, it better be nice because you will be living in it because you suck at buying houses and you need to stop. And I'm like, I can fit. And the thing was, I kept thinking, I can fix this. Like, I know I can fix this. But I didn't know how, but I had that tunnel vision. So we end up stepping back and we're like, okay, obviously we suck at this. We had an 8-month average tenancy. Wow. Our maintenance costs were 3 times the amount because when they left, they would take parting gifts like wiring, electrical.
Well, they destroy them too.
They would destroy them. It was a shell. I mean, the neighbors took our plants.
Wow.
I come back to the property one day and all my plants are in the neighbor's yard, freshly planted. I'm like, were those mine? He's like, nope. I'm like, they look like they were mine. He goes, if you take them, I'm just going to take them back. I'm like, you know what? I'll gravel the yard. That's fine. So anyways, when we tried to hand this dumpster fire of a portfolio over to a management company, nobody wanted them.
No.
They're like, we don't want these.
No, they don't want to screw with them either. They know better.
Yeah. So we had to sit down and create a management company for self-preservation. That was the only reason. We started managing them ourselves. We started putting in systems and structure. Hey, we started running it like a business,
right? Which
we were not doing. And all of a sudden things started to click and people started to approach us and ask us, hey, could you manage our houses?
Right.
And at first I thought, no way, I don't want your shit. I don't want your problems. I barely figured out mine. But then
and this was where exactly?
This is in Houston, Texas.
Houston.
And this is about 2011, just to give you some time.
So was one
frame.
of you licensed to be able to do other?
No, we didn't know anything. We had no idea. We were just investors that owned properties.
Okay.
So
so you were managing illegally.
We were doing everything that you could imagine wrong. I'm sure the statute is out by now.
Oh
right?
yeah, you're probably good. But yeah, guys, you don't manage properties for other people unless you're a licensed real estate person.
Correct.
Okay.
And so we are just going down this path, and all of a sudden people are coming to us. And they're handing us their properties. Now we have like 100 properties.
Now we're talking single families too.
It's all single family
pain
first.
in the freaking ass to manage.
Now we had a 52 unit complex that we were managing it out of.
Okay.
That was in one of the worst parts. Like Drugs Inc. was filmed there twice.
No kidding.
Just to give you a point of reference of this complex that we were running it out of.
Right.
But it was free rent, and we had no money, so it worked.
Okay.
So as we started growing this business, it was more problem after more problem. And what I learned was as I put in more work, it got worse. It didn't get better. 60, 80 hours a week. People are yelling at me. Everyone's stressed.
By the way, in the management business, nobody calls you when they're happy.
No.
Owners or tenants.
No.
Okay. And you burn out.
Oh
I mean,
my gosh.
I've owned a management company for decades, and my managers burn out because they can't take it.
We're like the trash men. Nobody wants us, but they need us.
Right.
And so next thing you know, I'm like, but there is a business here. It's scalable. I just have to figure this out. And so as we're going through this just a shit show of problems going on, next thing you know, I'm like, you know what? We need a customer service. We need to give better customer service. Like that's our problem.
Okay.
Everybody hates us, but we can be nice. So we hire we bring in a customer service consultant. And we're like, hey, we need to learn better customer service. And he goes, well, tell me something that's a problem. We go, well, when we get a new client, handing them over to operations, what sales does and what operations delivers is polar opposite. So he sits us down. He says, okay, it was me, my business partner, and my senior manager. And he says, okay, you two go out of the room. Steve, you sit here. Okay. And he says, okay, I want you to tell me in detail how this is handed off. So I go through the process. I'm like, we do this, we do this, we do this. And he's writing it down, writing notes, caricatures, pictures. I don't know what the fuck he's doing, but he's doing all this stuff.
Right.
And so next thing you know, he goes, is this how it's done? And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly how we do it. He goes, you go out, have your business partner come.
Yeah.
Same thing.
How close were they?
We were, so all three of us, we were so far off. And he looks at us and he goes, he slides all three pieces of paper over to us. It was me, my business partner, our senior manager. And he goes, you don't have a customer service problem. He goes, you have a lack of systemization problem. And he goes, until you can deliver the same product consistently, you will never, ever have a business and you guys will fail. Yeah. And that was kind of the light bulb that went off that got me to what I'm doing now. But it was a very interesting time. I'm glad I did it. And as you know, we learn the most from our failures.
Sure.
Those are the most humbling.
Now, I hope you're not an advocate for D properties.
I am not.
Okay, just want to make sure. I don't care how good your management ended up being. You know, guys, there's A, B, C, and D properties. A's brand new. D is the freaking hood, which is what he's talking about. You don't need that brain damage. Ask us both how we know. Yeah. Okay? People killed in them. Oh my God. Drugs, you name it, man. I could tell you, we should share stories. I've got some good ones. Yeah. But no, you don't want that shit. Okay. So you're great at systems. I mean, you're a freaking pilot. I mean, you got checklists, you checklist everything, you know, and guys, there's a great book about this called E-Myth by a guy named Michael Gerber about basically McDonaldizing your business. Sure. And I know you do this for a business. You teach people how to systemize businesses. I do. Right. Right.
You know, there was another book that I read at the time. I read E-Myth and and obviously it revolutionized how I thought, but another book that I read that was equally as well was called Checklist Manifesto.
Oh, I'm going to check that out.
And that was a doctor who was trying to standardize the medical field because of so much malpractice. And so he was looking at how do I standardize this industry? Nice. Because there was no standards. So guess where he went to learn how to standardize?
Where?
Boeing.
Oh, no kidding.
He went to Boeing. And they said, so they showed him how the checklist and systems run inside of a Boeing 787.
I saw a documentary on really the kind of revolution that Boeing went through, how they had delays in their deliveries and so on and so forth, and the hundreds of thousands of parts and miles of wire that goes into a plane, and how they systemized that and turned it around at Boeing, believe it or not. And I'm sure you've heard of this too, but extraordinary transformation that they made to get to be able to deliver planes on time because they were getting their ass kicked by the French one.
Airbus.
I forgot Airbus. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so anyway.
So the book, the Checklist Manifesto. As I read this, I thought, wait a second, like I'm a pilot.
Right.
Maybe I could figure this out.
Duh.
So one day I'm sitting, imagine this. Everyone probably has been to an airport or been on a plane. So one day I'm sitting, so I fly a Boeing 777, which is a wide body, very large aircraft. So I'm sitting at the gate one day and I'm racking my brain. I'm like, how do I figure out systems? He said lack of systems. So as I'm sitting there, I watched this and I was taking the plane out to depart and I was waiting for this plane. This plane comes into the gate and I'm sitting there and I'm watching this plane come into the gate. And as this plane comes into the gate, all of a sudden I see all the passengers getting off. I see the cargo doors open. I see all the luggage. I see all the ramp agents dispersing all the bags wherever it's going to go. I see the fuelers hooking up these fuel lines. Now, fueling takes about an hour because it holds 230,000 pounds of fuel. Maintenance is walking around doing all the safety of flight items. Cleaners are cleaning the inside. Catering's catering. Flight attendants are checking safety items. And the pilots up front, we're checking all the routing, destination, all that stuff. And I'm sitting there watching all this. And I'm like, all of a sudden you have this light bulb moment. And I'm like, none of this is happening by chance.
Right.
This is a system. And in 1 hour, the plane gets boarded again. All the luggage, all the fuel, all the food gets back on the plane. And within 1 hour, that plane pushes back into parts. And not one person has to talk to anyone else to make this happen. And this happens 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Because of the system. And I thought, if I could do this in my business, this is the answer.
Every business is nothing but people and systems.
It's just repetitive tasks done over and over again.
Every business is nothing but people and systems. You get the people right, you get the systems right, success is inevitable. I saw a documentary on cruise because I just came off a cruise last week, and they have one day they got to get all the passengers off by 9. They got to load hundreds of thousands of pounds of food and water and alcohol and everything else. And then they got to clean it and turn it over in one day and start boarding within it's more like a 3-hour period. And it's kind of the same thing.
It's
massive systems.
It's the same. And what happened and that's how we were able to scale our company. We started working with virtual assistants in Mexico.
Oh, no kidding.
60% of my company was operated out of Mexico. We actually got so good at right person, right seat. We started our own company in Mexico.
VA company?
Yes.
I use VAs in Mexico as well.
It's the best.
They're fantastic. I like it better than the Philippines because it's the same time zone.
Exactly.
Right. And so
50% of them either grew up or lived in the US.
Sure.
And they get it. They get the conversations.
Sure.
But as we grew and scaled, all of a sudden I had other people saying like, are you the pilot that's building the company? I'm like, I'm a pilot. I don't know if I'm that guy. And then all of a sudden I was asked to speak in Australia. I was doing some tours. Because everybody wanted to know, okay, Boeing has spent millions of dollars on me to learn how to do this. Does it work in real estate? I'm like, absolutely. Does it work in funds, syndication? I'm like, absolutely.
Right.
It's just processes and procedures. And one of the things one of my mentors taught me, he said, Steve, if you can't walk away from your business for 3 days or 3 weeks or 3 months and it be better and bigger than the day you left, you don't own a business, you own a job.
Said that. Robert Kiyosaki
Is that
said
okay? Yeah, I got it from someone who probably got it from him.
Robert Kiyosaki said that, yeah.
And it's so true.
It's not a business if you can't walk away for a bit.
It's a job.
Right.
And it's probably a shitty, low-paying job that everyone's yelling at.
You're self-employed, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's how he differentiates what a real business is versus
100%.
self-employed, yeah. So we're going to take a quick break from this incredible episode for a word from our sponsor, my incredible freaking Warrior program. And think about how things are going for yourself. Are you thriving or just surviving? If you're just surviving, I've got this amazing mentorship program. My students are called my Warriors, and at last count, they own somewhere between 190 and 200,000 units that we know of. It's an extraordinary group of people that are just flat out crushing it in multifamily. And here's why that's a big deal. We could be facing the greatest transfer of wealth we see in our lifetimes with the current economic environment we're in. Incredible opportunity is already here. If you'd like to apply to our amazing Warrior program, text the word CRUSH to 72345. and we'll set up a call. You can look us over, we'll look you over, and I can promise you, even if you don't join the program and it's not a fit, you're going to leave that call better than when you got on it. So again, text the word CRUSH to 72345, and you and I will speak soon. All right, let's get back to it.
And so one of the things I've learned is that sometimes, when we get, if I said, hey, Rod, tomorrow, let's just go to the airport. Let's go to Sarasota Airport and we'll just pick a plane, any plane. And once we get up in the air, then we'll figure out, do we want to go to maybe Cancun, Hawaii, London? Like, we'll figure it out in the air. But I don't know how much fuel we have. I have no idea of the routing. I don't even know what the weather is or what the airport looks like. And if we have an emergency, I have no clue what I'm going to do. But I've got a good gut feeling that this is going to work out.
Yeah, sure.
The odds of you or should get in that plane is slim to none.
Well, this is why I don't know what percentage of new businesses fail. I think it's 90%.
Exactly.
It's 90% within 10 years. I know that. I think it's a big number even within 3 years.
Yeah.
But it's because people do that. I mean, listen, I'm the poster child for that. I've built 27 businesses, several worth a lot of money, most spectacular failures. I call them seminars, but and because I didn't have any formal business education. So you built that management company to 1,000 properties.
Yep.
And then you sold it.
Yes.
And you stayed in, I think, right?
I stayed in. The company was a venture capital backed company. And one of the things they said, they were like, we've never seen a company grow, because we were the fastest growing company in Texas. And they said, we've never seen a company grow this fast and be on autopilot and run without your guys' involvement and continue to grow. And I said, well, this is what we did. This is what we're doing. And they were like, that's what we want.
And it was, this is when a lot of houses were being bought by these big venture
capital.
A lot
of hedge funds.
Hedge funds were buying them. So that was a piece of that, I take it?
It was a piece. They needed that part.
They need the infrastructure. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you, if I hadn't been hiding under a rock, I absolutely would have capitalized on that, because I'd managed thousands of properties myself for years. And you did. Well, good for you, man.
They ended up, they had 10,000 properties.
Right.
So they were across the country. And at the time, we were building our model to either franchise it, license it, not only in the US, but I was in talks in Australia and Malaysia to do some kind of not syndication, licensing,
franchise license. Gotcha. Yeah.
Out there. So we were already setting the structure up. So when they came along, they were like, we want to buy you. And I'm like, well, we're not really trying to sell. And they're like, everyone's for sale.
Oh yeah.
We just got to make the check big enough.
It's exciting when they make that statement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it worked out, and I'm glad I did. And it was a great experience to be able to exit a company, which I'm very glad I was able to do that and learn.
Well, that's good. That's good to learn. I had a guy in here yesterday. What's his name? Eddie Wilson. I don't know if you know Eddie.
I know the name, yeah.
Yeah. Sharp guy. He's bought and sold 150 companies. Really, really sharp guy. Really enjoyed having him in here.
Right.
I know now you're known as an influencer. You've been on BiggerPockets a lot, and webinars and panels and masterminds, and that's where we met basically at MFIN. And so I know you help people systemize pretty much any business, right?
Yeah, it boils down to when you remove the people, right? And this is just my opinion, and people can say I'm wrong, but when you remove the people and you get down to the core of a business, I've learned there's 3 cornerstones to making a business successful.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and so the biggest challenge with businesses is the owners. It's the ego and pride, as we know. They feel that they have to be the superhero.
And they're always the bottleneck as well.
They're always the bottleneck. They are the reason that businesses fail.
Right.
And so I've learned that if you can take the humanization out of it, now the humanization makes it better and it will enhance it, but it shouldn't be the core. And so there's 3 things that I'm happy to share them.
No, wait a minute. I want to back you up for a second. So the humanization piece. Okay. What do you mean when you're saying that you're kind of negating that a little bit? Tell me what you mean by that. So just so I understand.
And this is my perspective, is a business should be 80% systematized, 20% humanized.
Oh, okay.
So meaning you get a rock star person in your company. And let's say now everything is dependent upon that person.
Okay.
And all of a sudden that person says, hey, you know what, Rod, I don't like you anymore. I'm going to leave, or you give me a 45% paycheck.
Right.
Now you're hostage.
Right.
Now you're going, oh shit, what do I do? Now I'm scrambling. Yeah. And so, or they go, you know what? I'm just stressed. If you don't get me someone, I'm going to quit.
Right.
And now you're not hiring proactively based on the growth of your company.
Right.
You're hiring reactively.
Very good.
And
point.
now you're on your back heels. But if the system was set up that they are interchangeable. I'll give you an example. As an airline pilot, the company I work with, they have 16,000 pilots. I'll be heading to Tokyo this weekend to fly a trip.
Cool.
If I'm in Tokyo and all of a sudden I call up and go, yeah, I'm sick today, I'm not going to fly, the whole airline doesn't shut down.
Right.
The CEO of my airline doesn't show up in Tokyo and go, hey, I'm going to take this today. There's a system in place that I am interchangeable.
Right.
So my point is yes, we need humans to fly the airplane. Barely, but we need it still.
Right.
But we are not the linchpin that makes or breaks our lives. And
Right.
when you put all of your eggs in that basket, which we've all done.
Sure. I've had it done many, many times.
And all of a sudden that person decides, I'm in control here.
Right.
I'm going to start making some decisions and I'm going to stick it to Rod just a little bit more. And look, we all know the reality. When someone leaves, they really left 3 months ago. We just failed to see it.
Right.
Right. That's the thing. So if you can build a business with these three things that I talk about, you will be able to grow and scale, and they will enhance the business, but they will not be the key factors that make your business survive or fail.
Yeah. And by the way, this applies to any real estate business, any syndication business, all that. So what are the three things?
Okay. So the first thing is monetization.
Yeah.
Okay. So monetization.
How to make money.
How to make money. Look, at the end of the day, I don't care what anyone says. We are here to make money.
Duh.
Let's just put are you for profit or nonprofit? Even nonprofit makes money.
Sure.
So there are two things to making money. There is marketing and there is sales. Very rudimentary. And monetization will basically keep your business going for maybe 8 or 9 months, right? You get enough money. Money will solve a lot of problems. It won't solve all of them.
Right.
But it will solve a lot of problems.
Right.
The challenge is number one, and again, this is just my perspective. Every business in the world is a sales and marketing company. We just sell and market something different, whether it's a product, service, concept, or idea. But at the heart of what if you're Continental, if you're United, if you're Chevrolet, if you're Rod, if you're Steve, we are marketing and selling what we do.
Steve, Peter Drucker said every business is nothing but marketing and innovation.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So marketing, essentially from the bare bones, it makes your phone ring, or now your opt-in line, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And the question is, okay, who is that person who's calling? Is it the right target? So many of us, we have no idea who our target client is.
Right.
We don't know what is their age, what is their demographics, what is their geographics.
Call it an avatar.
Yeah, your avatar. And more importantly, what problem am I solving for this person?
Right.
So many times, when I go in and I work with people and I talk to them, I have them grade their clients A through D. So the D clients, which we all know, is that when that phone rings, you're like, oh, fuck, here we go.
It's him again.
It's him again.
Or her again. Yeah. They're the ones that need hand-holding. They're a pain in the ass.
And you know what? You make the least amount of money.
Right.
They've invested the least amount of money, and they're the biggest time suck, and they're never happy.
Right.
You have to learn how to get rid of your D clients. But I'll explain how you do this in a second.
Okay.
The C clients, they're either cheap or they take a lot of your time. They're one or the other, but they're tolerable. They pay the bills.
Right.
The B clients, those are the silent majority. You don't hear much from them. They pay their bills. They're happy. Those are actually the majority of the people that work with you, but you don't hear from them. And the A's are just like the B's, but they're evangelical. They're raving fans. So there's two things you have to figure out. If you took your A's and B's, you've got to figure out how to get your B's up to A's to become raving fans, number one. And number two, you've got to figure out the common thread. What was their average age? What was their average income? What was their average problem that you solved? If you don't know, you simply ask them, hey,
Problem's
just curious,
the biggest piece.
What was it that made you want to work with me?
Yeah.
Now, you do the same with your D's. Just curious, why did you call me? Oh, you were the cheapest, Rod.
Right.
Good to know. I'm changing that.
Right.
So once you figure out your A's and B's, and when you get your A's, you want two things. You want to get them to become repeat customers, ring in the cash register, a client acquisition cost, and you want to get them to refer people, which we know is the highest,
lowest cost,
and highest margins of profit.
Right.
So you've got to figure that out. Most people don't do that, right?
Right.
They do that shotgun approach. I work for everyone. That's fucking stupid.
Right.
Anyways, once you get your phone to ring, marketing has done their job. Sales answers the phone. And when they answer that phone, they are going to convert that person into a client based on their sales steps, based on the disc profiling, based on their scripts, based on all of that.
Right. By the way, guys, this applies to investors. Okay.
Absolutely.
We did a survey to our investors. Sorry to interrupt for a second, but I kind of want to hammer a point home. So we did a survey to our investors and to my students and asked them, what kept them up at night, why they invested, why they joined our program, what they wanted. And I'm going to tell you, their answers were marketing gold, because we actually use almost word for word in some cases in our marketing. And, like I just did a new website for we've got a fund now, an opportunity fund to take advantage of what's coming. And we've got a new website. It's creecapital.com. You guys should check it out if you're listening. And in fact, we've got a new investor club, which is off the hook. It's free, and it's got so many resources and videos and articles and books and stuff. It's all free. And so it's on Cree Capital. If you're driving, text the word partner to 72345 and we'll send it to you. But the point is, I did a bunch of videos on there, and I spoke to all of these pain points. Okay, that's what I did. That's it.
Yeah.
So we identified our avatar as well. Like in my coaching business, it's typically we have a lot of women, but primarily men that are 30 years old to 45, right? 30 to 45. Typically a technical job, a IT engineer, analytical of some sort. And so, I guess what I'm saying is we do a lot of what you're talking. Yeah, we've done that.
So your phone rings with the right people.
Correct.
So then when it goes into the sales step process, and what I've learned is there's average of 22 steps in a sales step process on average.
Okay.
80% of all closes happen between the 5th and 12th touch.
Interesting.
So when I talk to people and go, how many steps are in your sales process? They're like 3. I'm like, so you're not even in the game. Like you are losing. If you knew what that client acquisition cost was or that strategy, you're burning money.
But that sales process could be done like by adding value on social media, for
Absolutely.
example. It's those touches.
Absolutely.
Right.
It could be a text message, whatever it is. Like people think it's like, I've got to call that person. No, it's just a way to get in front of them, to be in front of them.
It could be an email sequence, texting.
Whatever it is. Right. On average, it's going to be 22, but between the 5th and 12th, 80% of all closes happen statistically.
Okay, interesting.
So if you go to your salespeople and say, hey, how many times are we touching these people? Where are they dropping off per the KPIs?
That's critical to see where you lose them.
Where are we losing them? Hey, we're losing them on this email. Okay, maybe we need to swap out that email. It's not resonating with them.
Right.
So once you get them, and now again, once marketing makes the phone ring, sales answers the phone, and they convert them to being a client, they're done. So that's the monetization.
Okay. What's
the
number
next
2?
is the systemization.
Gotcha.
This is what I talked about the airlines. This is what we call
checklists and flow charts and procedures.
Yeah.
And
Now, every business has between 8 and 11 systems statistically in their business. People in real estate, there's about 8 to 11. Property management, there's 19.
I believe it.
Trust me, I know.
No,
so, as you probably know as well.
Sure, absolutely.
So the thing is could I sit down and without knowing what the business is and pull out a systems manual, pull out a checklist, pull out a flow chart, and know how to do that task at hand, and have a report card, meaning a KPI.
Metrics, you're measuring.
Measuring
If you don't measure, it doesn't get improved.
Right. And I talk to business all the time. I go, well, if you go to any kind of arena sporting field in the world, I don't need to know what game is being played. I can look on the field and I can look at the scoreboard. I can tell you who's winning. I can tell you who's losing. I can tell you how many more minutes left in the game, fouling out, all that stuff. My question is can I go into your business and see the same thing?
Right.
If I can't, that's a problem.
Yeah, you got to have optics.
You have to have optics.
Yeah. We just, and I may be rolling this out publicly, but I'm involved with this new KPI system for operators, and it is freaking incredible what I'm seeing so far. But, and it measures everything you could possibly think of. But, again, if it's not measured, how do you improve it on every, and this is not just, obviously we're a marketing business for sure. So marketing is hugely important, but really every aspect of the business, where, and how do you find this stuff out? By talking to your clients. You got to be client facing, right? This is why, I got to meet the owner of Zappos. Unfortunately, he died, Tony Shea, but, they were completely client focused. They focused on, and Amazon does the same thing. Focus on how do they make the client experience better. They don't focus on how they make the company better. How do they make the client experience better? And by virtue of that, the company becomes better.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of the things when I talk to people, I tell them, one of the first questions I ask people when I sit down is, what's the sale date of your business? And they're like, I don't want to sell it.
Right.
But that wasn't my question.
Right.
My question was, when is the sale date? Because if it's not a business that runs without any of your involvement on systems, procedures, it's not a business. It's a job.
Right.
And the more valuable you are in your business, the less valuable it is to anyone else. I don't want to buy Rod. I want to buy Rod's company.
Right.
Rod wants to go and hang off and retire.
Right.
I don't want to have to call you. So if you don't have a day, a month, and a year and a specific amount, it's never going to happen. It's like someday I should lose weight. Someday I should stop smoking.
Right.
That someday never happens. So I need to know, what is it? So I'll give you an example. Let's
Clear
say,
and measurable.
exactly. I want to have a June 1st, 2029. I'm going to have a $50 million business that's doing 35% profit margins, and I'm working 5 hours a week. Now we have a goal. Now in flying, we know where we're landing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So now we can reverse engineer your business and your life.
Sure.
One of the questions I have for people, kind of going back to what you're saying, is, are you a $50 million CEO? Do you act like it? Do you talk like it? Do you walk like it? Or are you a $50,000 employee faking it, doing all the stuff you shouldn't be doing?
Good question.
You're never going to see the $50 million. You're never going to see the $50 million opportunities of the customer experience.
Good question.
Because you're an employee and you have that employee mentality. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, if you are not the $50 million CEO, you've got to become that.
Yeah.
And so when people are building these businesses, what I've learned is, again, we know they're the biggest challenge, but they don't understand. They think, oh, once I build the company, then I'll act like the $50 million CEO.
No.
You don't get it.
No. You
You're
got to
never gonna
act
see
as
it.
if. You have to act as if, and right out of the gate. You know, I want to circle back to something else you said. You know, you talked about knowing your destination,
Yes.
clear and concise. You know, like an airplane, correct me if I'm wrong, is off track probably 95% of the time, but they land in the right spot because they know the freaking destination.
Yep.
Same with a boat. And you're course correcting.
That's all you're doing.
That success is never a straight line.
Never.
But if you know your destination, you have to know it to have any chance of achieving it.
Right.
Right. Which is why, you know, we do goals. You know, if you haven't done your goals, get your ass to rodslinks.com and do that goal setting workshop that's at the bottom. My guide is there. How do you get anything if you don't know what it is?
Yeah.
Right. You got to know what you want. And so,
well, and that goes me to the third part of the thing. That's duplication.
Oh,
so you've
love
got monetization, systemization, duplication.
Got it.
So
that's how you scale.
That's how you scale.
Yeah.
And so the thing is if I can't bring on an employee, now people will come and work for you for a paycheck, but they will only stay because of the leadership and the vision. So if everybody's on the boat and we're like, I don't know where the hell Rod's going. He has no clue. He's running around every day. He's screaming. He cries. He yells at people. We have no idea. He's always late for meetings. At some point, if someone is there for the paycheck, they're just waiting for a better paycheck.
Yeah.
People stay with you because of you and your vision and that you believe in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Now, the question is how do you duplicate yourself? Processes,
well, not just
procedures,
yourself,
training.
really. Either it's not just yourself.
The whole
correct?
company.
Right. Correct.
It's
Okay.
everybody.
Right.
It's how do I take this and go into another city and within 2 weeks I'm set up? How do I go and buy this apartment complex in this city and have a team in place and be ready to rock and roll without missing a beat?
Yeah.
That's duplication.
Right.
Nothing should be so specific and so special.
And honestly, when you're talking about duplication, it could really even an example could be staying in the same location but doubling in size, tripling in size, quadrupling in size. You're duplicating your processes and systems over and over again. Yes.
So I'll give you an example. Let's say you have someone that has 2,000 units, right? And my question is if I gave you another 5,000 units tomorrow, could you handle it?
Right.
Could you duplicate? So now instead of 3 property managers, you now need 8.
Right. And regionals and accounting and
could you
and
duplicate
beefed up? Right.
And they're like, no. I'm like, well, you have a problem.
Right.
You know, and that's the challenge because they don't know how to duplicate. Like you said, it doesn't have to be in other cities, but just the staff. And
so let's
team.
go micro a little bit. Okay. I mean, I know the answers, but I want you to express them.
Sure.
So let's talk about the process a little bit. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I know what we've done to set up our systems. We put up a whiteboard, we flow chart everything. Okay. We flow chart and we have lanes for each person that's involved or each position that's involved. And this flow chart goes up or down to the different people. And then, we have each person document everything they do with video, with on-screen video. Yep. So literally someone working at McDonald's could step in and take over that position if they had to.
Correct.
Is that what you're talking about
Absolutely.
here?
And I believe even a step further
Okay.
is the checklist of accountability.
Oh, then the checklist, of course, the follow-up and the
Right.
accountability, of course,
Right.
of course.
And so I'll give you an
right.
example. Let me give you an example of how checklists work in the
Okay.
aviation world.
Okay.
So for us as a pilot, one of the most dangerous times, and I don't mean to scare anyone, but the
Right.
most dangerous times when you fly is when we're going down the runway and we rotate. And if we lose an engine, we have an engine fail right at rotation. So it's called a V1. V1 is when we rotate.
When you're about to take
When
off.
we're just about to rotate, because we're slow, we're low to the ground, and we're very heavy.
Right.
So
okay.
that is the worst time.
Okay.
So guess what we constantly train and practice for?
Losing an engine.
Losing an engine.
Wow.
Oh, we are always training and practicing for it. So one of the first challenges, I would say, quick sidebar, is everyone is going to have an engine failure in their business, in their real estate. They're going to have
Right.
problems.
Right. A whole bunch of them right now.
The difference is
Right.
they hope and pray. We train for it.
Right.
So who's training for their engine failure at rotation? Because it's going to happen. You know, would you, if you were going down the runway with me and I'm like, hey, Rod, I got bad news, man. We just lost an engine. I remember doing this about 10 years ago. I'm
Right.
not exactly sure how this works.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
let's grab the manual.
I'm gonna work through this. Everybody, if anybody has an idea, give us a shot.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. When we were creating these checklists, my business partner is more of the engineer mindset, and I'm the airline pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, hey, we're gonna create a checklist for handing over a new client to operations. So we bring on a new client. How, like, let's say you brought a new student on. How are they handed off?
Right.
So he says, okay, I'll make the checklist. So he comes back, and this checklist is 19 pages long.
Wow.
Sit in your seat. Check. Turn on your computer.
Oh, wow.
Check. I mean,
Okay.
very,
All
very
right.
detailed, right?
Okay.
So I'm sitting there and I'm reading and reading. I'm on like page 4 before they even get to anything.
Wow.
So I explained to him, look, when we lose an engine, which is the most critical time, we have to go up, secure the engine, dump fuel, get everything tightened up, come back around and land this plane with one engine is 3 pages. The most critical thing of anything in aviation is
Right.
3 pages. I told him, I go, dude, we got to make this 1 page.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, there's no way. I'm like, there is. Let me explain. When you say load client and somebody checks it off, they're checking it off that they know exactly what that means.
Right.
So what we did is we went in our electronic checklist, and you could click load client, and that took you to a hyperlink to our expanded version systems manual. And it detailed 2 pages of what it meant to load a client.
Gotcha. Yeah, you're just backing it up a little bit.
Just backing it up.
Paragraph headings.
Exactly.
Right.
So the checklist, a lot of people do checklists by rote. Check,
Right.
check after they do it. That's not how you do it. It's do it, check it, do it, check it.
And you're chunking as well.
Exactly.
Correct? You're chunking stuff together.
Yeah.
Right.
And the other thing that's a big no-no in systems, and I don't know how you do it, but if you and I had a system and I took it and I do all my tasks and I hand it to you, it should never come back to me.
Correct.
I'm done with it.
Correct.
Many people flip-flop it. And anything that has human interaction has a chance to get missed.
No, we don't do it that way, but that's smart to do it that way for sure.
Yes.
No question. That's the best way to do it.
If possible.
I'm trying to think when we couldn't do it that way, but let's not get that micro. But the point is, no, that makes absolute sense to me.
Yeah. And so the key is you've got to systemize it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you automate as much as you can. You
Yeah.
use technology.
I was going to go there with you. You know, when you said you hand it off to somebody, I was going to say, I hope that's automatic.
Automation.
Done
If you can
digitally.
automate it through software technology, that is key. Because look, softwares and technologies, they don't get sick. They don't make mistakes. They
Right.
don't. If all of a sudden John is gone for a week, we're like,
Right.
holy shit, nothing's gotten done here. What the hell?
Right.
So that's why you've got to use the system. And then I'm a big believer in outsourcing. I'm a big believer. 60% of my company was outsourced to Mexico.
Wow.
And you can imagine with a large company, we had a lot of operations going on down there,
Yeah.
and it worked seamless.
Yeah, and you know, when you outsource to VAs, by the way, it's not like hiring somebody here domestically. Okay, it's fantastic. The price point is fantastic, but the training is different. The hiring is different. You know, a lot of people think they can just hand something off to a VA and it's done. No, you've got to line it out step by. You've got to systemize it.
You've got
in
to
advance
systemize it.
because that's how they work. You know, you got to hand it to them step by step, show them with screen share videos, and then once they've done it, then they've done it, and you're good. But
Well, and one of the big reasons I've learned why people fail with virtual assistants, number one is they try to lead through abdication, meaning they just give it to them and they
Right.
hope and
Forget
pray.
it.
Or they give them everything. You give them one task at a time. And what I recommend for people on the show, what I would recommend, people go, I don't know what I would offload. any low level, low enjoyment task that is a low income producing activity is the first thing. So how do you know? You measure it. You do a time study. And I recommend anyone who, and I'm not trying to tell you how to do this, but anyone who comes in, you do a 2-week time study. If I said, hey, Rod, stop doing stupid shit. You're doing things that are below your pay grade. You're going to go, no, Steve, this is important. I need to go to Home Depot and look at
So
these
talk
SKUs.
about what a time study is.
So a time study, this is one of the most eye-opening things that I have people do. It's a simple spreadsheet. And every day, Monday through Friday, they go and they put their stuff.
5-minute increments.
I do 30. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
What I want to see is I'm looking for patterns. Now, there's 2 columns. There's what they do.
Okay.
And the next column is a drop down, and there's 3 options.
Okay.
Option 1 is productive, only I can do it.
Okay.
Productive, someone else can do it.
Okay.
Not productive at all.
Okay. Good.
And at the bottom, it'll totalize everything. And after the first week, they will realize, holy shit.
Yeah.
I am not as productive
We need
as
to
I
be
thought I
offloading
was.
some stuff. Yeah.
Right. And so we start looking at this going, okay, well, let's
I like
look.
that.
And now we look, it's very simple. What are all the things you're doing that are not productive? How do we turn this over either to automate it through technology or to a virtual assistant?
To a VA, yeah. So talk for a minute about how you hire a VA, because I know how we do it. I'm just curious if I can get some insights from you.
Yeah, sure. So one of the first things, and again, I am a big believer in structure and systems. And one of the things that most people need in structure and systems is an organization chart.
Right.
Okay. So in the organization chart, I believe that you should have 2 organization charts.
Okay.
You should have one as a snapshot of today of how your business looks. And you need one for the sale
future.
date.
For the future. Yeah.
What does it look like? So when I have a $50 million company, what does my staffing look like?
Yeah.
So once you know what that is, now you know the progression of where you're going to need to hire and when you're going to need to hire. So once inside of that organization chart, there should be 4 things.
Okay.
You need to have a job description.
Right.
What does this person do? I need to have the roles and responsibilities. What are they responsible for? So if I hire the marketing guy and I go, hey, you know what? Rod sucks. I'm going to fire. He doesn't even cut the grass.
Right.
Like, see how bad the grass is?
Right.
And Rod's going to go, that's not my job. That's not in my responsibility of my job.
Right.
So it's got to be very clear. What is Rod responsible for?
Right.
The third thing are the key performance indicators to tell me how is Rod doing in his job. And the last thing is the DISC profile. Now there's different profiling systems that are out there.
Yeah. DISC, by the way, guys, is Tony Robbins gives a free version of
Yes.
that. If you go Anthony Robbins DISC profile, you can check it out. And I will tell you, it's incredibly accurate.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So what we do is every role in the company has an associated DISC with it. So when we're interviewing virtual assistants, the first thing we do is we want to know, okay, what is the DISC for this role? And we interview. So a lot of people say like, oh, I've got hundreds of people. You're doing it wrong.
Right.
First of all, you put out the ad or whatever you're going to do, and there's organizations and people. You put the ad out, and then based on who calls, you send them the DISC.
Right.
If they're not even the right DISC profile, it doesn't go further.
Yeah. Well, that's really smart, actually, because sometimes you're trying to put a round peg in a square hole, depending upon the role, it takes a certain personality to do certain things.
Well, look,
that's it.
Yeah. I mean, look, you're familiar with DISC.
I'm not familiar with it to the point to identify the different roles. I'm okay. I know what the DISC stands for, but I'm not good enough to identify the DISC profile for different roles, like an admin role, like a sales role.
Well, and so,
but I probably could.
You could figure it out, right? I mean, look, a marketing person is a C. They're compliant. They're data driven. They like metrics and numbers.
Right.
A salesperson is an ID.
They're influential, and
they go for the close.
Right.
A operations person is C.
Right.
They're data driven. They're a C and a D.
Right.
And they make decisions.
Right.
Accounting person is a C.
Right.
So if accounting person is a C, they're metrics, they're data driven. If somebody runs and sends me a resume and they're an I,
right.
I'm going to go,
no,
there's no reason going further in this conversation.
Right.
So I only want solid C's.
Gotcha.
And on top of that, this is a bigger mistake people make. They don't understand how to write the ads for the DISC. You should write your ad related to that DISC profile.
Oh,
so
like
if I'm hiring a salesperson, I want to go, are you a rock star that wants to dictate your own life, make $300,000 a year, do what you want, call your own shots? If I'm a C and I'm an accountant, I'm going to go, I don't want that.
Right.
But if I'm hiring an accounting role, I'm going to go, do you like working with numbers? I'm talking in C. Do you like data? Do you like spreadsheets? Do you like working alone and presenting your data? A C is going to go, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
So the ad is actually going to resonate with the person.
I really like that a lot. That's brilliant.
Man.
The only thing I add to what you just said is when I have a role, I like to identify the ultimate outcome. like the vision for it. I got this from a book called Who, which is a hiring book, and where you do like a scorecard on somebody, and you determine what the ultimate vision and outcome is for the role as well. That's the only thing I would add to what you said.
Yeah, listen, I think it's good. Now, the biggest challenge I would say once you get the people, and this comes from a leadership, and leadership I think is very, very underused and underrated. People don't understand vision.
Right.
But I think the thing about, and as a pilot, we have to be leaders.
Right.
I think the leader needs to let people know what is the vision of the company.
Right.
Where's this going?
Absolutely.
What is the sale date?
And get people enrolled in it.
Yeah.
Get people behind it. Get people to believe in it.
Absolutely.
Right.
June 1st, 2029, we are going to be a $50 million company. Do you buy into that? Do you believe it? Listen, they don't have to believe it, but they have to believe that you believe it.
Yeah.
And as long as they go, you know what? I don't know that we're going to do it, but Steve knows that that's going to happen. So I'm behind that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's the vision that you have to inspire people as the leader, not the manager. And I think a lot of people make that mistake.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And, like here at my company, we change lives, period. That's our mantra. And that's what my people get behind. But the thing that is lacking is that future vision. I mean, we did it when I did the EOS system from Traction, which I know you're familiar with. And we did all that, the 3-year, the 5-year, the 10-year, whatever it was. And the BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. But the other thing I'll tell you that I learned through Tony Robbins is that there are 3 archetypes in business. There's the entrepreneur, leader. They're the ones that start the business, but they want to get out as soon as possible. There's the business. There's the there's the entrepreneur. There's a manager leader, the manager mindset that takes that business and runs it and builds it and scales it. And then there's the artist, the person, the innovator, the person that comes up with the idea.
Yeah.
I did those out of sequence. And sometimes you're wearing all 3 of those hats.
Absolutely.
But like in Silicon Valley, you'll have those artists, those coders that come up with a great idea. They get it out there, but then they need to bring in venture capital that, which is the entrepreneur in some cases, but definitely the manager leader component. They'll bring in a C-level suite to take it to the next level and so on and so forth. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And, EOS has the visionary and integrator. So
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Basically, the one thing I've learned is however we want to quantify it, you're not going to do it on your own.
That's right.
That's the one thing I can say. And,
that's right.
There is such a difference, and people do not understand. I don't think good leaders are born. I think they're created.
I agree completely.
And I think that, I shouldn't say no. Many people focus too much on being a manager, and they think they're being a leader, and they're not. The leader is the one who inspires them. They have the vision. They say, hey, we're 50 million. We're running. We're going. I'm going to charge this hill. Everybody run behind me.
Right.
The manager stands behind him and says, if you don't get that fucking hill, you're fired.
Right.
So you got to have both.
And pushes sometimes from behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the leader in your definition, I think, is the entrepreneur archetype that I was thinking about. That visionary that makes it, the visionary in the OS system. The implementer is the manager leader that brings it home.
Yes, the metrics, the data,
And then there's that artist, which is the innovator that originally came up with the idea, which is very often the entrepreneur, or it's very seldom it's the manager.
Correct.
But there's those 3 components. And in my analogy or my example here, or Tony's example really is, if you're going to get into this business, and you come up with some unique ideas, then you're acting as an artist or an innovator, and if you're going to, come actually start the business, then you're an entrepreneur, and you're taking off your W-2 hat and putting on your entrepreneur hat. But very often you need help to take it and really run it, like that manager leader role, that implementer role in the EOS system, or somebody like Steve who helps you systemize.
Well, I think everybody, when we set our ego and pride aside, right, you've been down that path. You've
many
done
many times.
So I think of Michael Jordan. To me, he was the best athlete on the planet.
Right.
When he was playing for the Bulls at his peak, he had 5 coaches.
Yeah, I talk about this when I talk about my boot camp. Right.
And to me, it's like, it doesn't make sense. Like, why is it that everyone knows that? I mean, if I played for the NFL, if I was a boxer, I would have someone helping me. Multiple
people. Yeah. I've got. How many coaches do I have right now? I have a life coach. I have a high performance coach. I had a voice coach. I had I've got a systemization coach right now.
Yeah, they come and go, right?
Exactly.
As you grow, and I mean, Pete, listen, the guy who coached Michael Jordan in high school was probably not going to be the coach of the Bulls,
right?
But you are the coach for people in the Bulls,
right?
You are the people that want to get them to that next level. And listen, sometimes people come in, and sometimes people go out, as we know. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think one of the challenges that people have is some people think it's oh, I don't want to use Rod because then I feel dumb. But
No.
they don't realize that's the accelerant that's going to get them there.
They're paying for speed. That's the bottom line.
Speed.
Can you do it on your own? Sure. It might take you 7 years. With us, it might take you 2 years.
7 years, and it may not even work.
Right. And it's going to be overwhelming and scary. And that's the reason my students are so freaking successful, because they've got the framework, they've got the blueprint, they've got me, they've got their coaches as well. And it's just, it's poetry in motion. It's working beautifully. And, but yeah, no, I try to tell people at my boot camps, I use the Michael Jordan example, the 5 coaches, and I probably better come up with another one, because, but literally every superstar, world-class athlete, business person, you name it, they all have coaches, all of them.
Right.
I mean, the best people in the world at what they do have coaches. I don't care who they are.
I've never met one person that's successful, business, sports, whatever, and said, I did it all by myself.
Right.
No one helped me. It was all me. I've never met that person.
No, me either.
And I've never met the person that said, I've never failed.
Right.
I've never met that person either. So there's got to be something with failing and having coaches and mentors.
And don't fear failure, guys. Fear freaking regret. Fear being in the same place you are right now a year or two from now, unless you absolutely freaking love where you are right now. That's what you fear. Now, fear regret. Yeah. Don't fear failure. And we fail our way to success. And I tell the story when I'm interviewed. I got to meet Sarah Blakely, the billionaire owner of Spanx. Her and Jesse, I'm sure you know who they are. And she started with 5,000 and she was in Forbes. She's worth over $1 billion now. And her dad used to ask her and her brother. I met her at her mastermind. I got a nice picture with her. She's a sweetheart. And she told me that her dad used to tell her and her brother, or ask them once a week, what have you failed at this week? I thought, what an awesome freaking question.
That is a good question.
Right?
I like
so
that.
they don't fear failure, right?
Yeah.
Love that. Do you have kids?
Actually, I had a son who passed away.
Oh, dude. Sorry.
Yeah.
Jeez,
yesterday
sorry,
was 6 months that he passed away.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Steve.
And
wow.
I will tell you,
wow.
as a way to link this, if it's okay if I tell you.
Please, dude. Man,
yeah.
I don't know. There are no words, man.
No, it's so he was on a motorcycle. He passed away on a motorcycle, which
Jesus.
is what he and I love doing together. He wasn't doing anything wrong, but he was struck down. And the kid was 19 years old.
Oh.
He traveled to 19 countries. He had his own rental property at 14.
Wow.
Dove with sharks in the Pacific, bungee jumped in New Zealand, camels in Dubai. At 19 years old, I would say this kid lived a life that many adults don't live. And one thing I tell people is that at his service, there was a lot of pictures, right? Of family, of memories. And not one picture, and I'm sure you could relate to this, there was not one picture of how many businesses I built, of how much money was in my bank account. The only pictures were memories, because I've had businesses that gave me the time and freedom to build memories with my son. And as I talk now to people, I explain, sometimes we lie to ourselves as entrepreneurs. We always say one day I'm going to have time with my kid.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, sometimes you got to knock on that door like my wife and I did, and that one day ends. And so what I explain to people is, don't wait for one day. Memories are free. All the memories we had with our son, they were free. And I love and I cherish them because I don't get any more. Wow. And as an entrepreneur, sometimes we get so wrapped up doing for what we love, for the people that we love, we actually never share it with them. We never take the time to have a free memory. And it's one of those things that I'm so glad that I walked that walk and I created memories with my son, because I don't get any more. And he was a great kid. He was a welder. He was going to welding school. I mean, he was a great kid. We actually started a scholarship foundation for kids that want to go to trade school but can't afford it. Plumbing, HVAC, all the things that we need. So my wife and I started a nonprofit for that.
Wow.
But I tell people, it's tough. It is tough. Dude. It's only been 6 months.
Dude, I can't. I can't even. I can't. It's unfathomable. But I have to salute you for already pivoting that into forward thinking. Turning it into something to make the world a better place, to help other people. That's incredible that you've done it that fast.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
As a pilot, as a entrepreneur, as a father, as a human, we're always trying to solve problems.
Yeah.
This is a problem I can never solve.
Yeah.
Every day it's the same thing. So I think, okay, how do I redirect that energy? How do I help other entrepreneurs not say, wow, because it could happen. Listen, you and I, unfortunately, we could leave here today and something could happen to us. We don't know.
Yeah.
And so I try to tell people, like, look, don't be that person that regrets. You have a lot of money in the bank, but you have zero memories with your family or loved ones. Because at the end of the day, it's horrible. As a father, it's obviously one of the most horrific things I've gone through.
Of course.
But if I can help other people, and I can help other people learn from this, because I am truly blessed that he gave me 19 years.
Wow.
I'm truly blessed that I had that time with him, but I don't get 19 and 1.
Yeah.
And so again, it's one of those things. We do all this stuff, but what do we do it for? And sometimes we forget what we're doing it for.
Guys, I have to tell you, that's the most important thing I've probably heard in the last 100 interviews. And I hope you take note, and I'm taking note, and because wow. But again, the fact that you're redirecting that grief, and I know that that'll help you deal with it, because you're changing lives through your efforts and making things better.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying. It helps me. It's kind of helps me with my grieving process.
Sure.
So by me helping other people, that's how I can direct it. And
yeah.
A lot of people say, like, Steve, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, I don't have a choice. You say, like, I didn't choose this to happen, so I can't choose. We can't choose what happens to us, only how we react, right?
That's it. Life's and we choose the meaning we place on something as well. And we can have a meaning that debilitates us, or we can have a meaning that at some point might inspire us.
Yeah.
And I saw this at a lot of Tony events where he gets people on stage that have had horrific things happen to them, and two people can have the same experience, and one person can be destroyed and the other person can come out stronger.
Right. Yeah.
And so life is about meaning.
Yeah,
right?
It is. And it's, again, we do what we can, and we get by, and that's
Is your
all
wife
I can say.
okay?
She's okay. It's a struggle. It's not easy.
Yeah.
And we go to grief counseling, and one
good.
thing I've learned is that, they've told us we both lost a different person.
Wow.
A mother lost a son, a father lost a son, 2 different relationships.
Right.
So we both grieve differently.
Interesting.
So we both have different ways that we handle it and deal with it.
Yeah.
So I have my own personal way. She has her own way. And it's tough, because it's, again, you never think that you're going to bury your child. And he was our only child. So it's, it puts a lot of things into perspective.
Wow. I I don't know where to go from on there. I don't want to end there though, dude. Let's end on something positive, please. Let's try to come up with something positive. Well,
listen,
we can't talk about the economy.
No.
I was going to go there with you.
We don't go into politics. That's another one.
Or politics.
Yeah, listen, I think that I will just say that, my son, a lot of people, when they heard how he lived, they were like, wow.
Yeah, that's
His
pretty
name was
incredible.
Jet,
He
J-E-T-T.
he really lived.
He lived a life. And
he lived. There's living and there's living.
Yeah, and he
right?
was just that kid, and everyone, some people said, they go, wow, more people need to live like Jet.
Yeah.
And so we started the
Jet, J-E-T?
J-E-T-T.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and so we started the foundation for kids that want to go to trade school.
I love it.
A nonprofit, and it's called Live Like Jet. And
I
so a
love
lot
it.
of people.
Hey, make note of that for me, Matt. I want to donate to it. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people. So again, learning something good. It's like, you know what? Because I owned a business that gave me the ability.
Right. There's the message. Otherwise,
man.
maybe you were busy trying
in 9 to
trying
5.
to grow your freaking thing.
Right.
And you didn't have time.
Yeah.
And God, that makes it 100 times
then
worse.
There's regret. I wish I would have went on vacation to Disney World with them. I wish I would have done this. I wish.
All the things you did.
I could say, man, I'm glad I did.
Right.
I'm glad I did these
glad
things.
you were able to.
Yeah.
And you created that life to be able to do that freedom to be able to do that through your systemization, through having a life.
Right. And at the time I didn't know it, but now I'm so fortunate that I could do that. And we went to Australia, we went to all these places. I'm thinking, wow, how freaking cool is that, man?
So if you're listening and you're grinding through a W-2 and you have children, I hope you take note of this, okay? Because I don't care if you come work with me. I don't care if you do multifamily. I don't care what you do, but you better freaking do something, okay? Can you imagine having this happen to you if you're in that situation and you don't have those memories? And you know who you are, and I love you, but please take note of this. Yeah, I think you massively impacted a lot of people today, brother. I really do. And you know, I'm really interested to see how Jet lived, and I know where the name came from, obviously.
Yeah. And listen, like I said, I don't bring this up to make. I
pulled it out of you, and I'm in a way I'm glad I did, but I'm sorry because it's I
probably should have warned you before.
Yeah, I mean, I got emotional just sitting here listening to you, and you know, anybody that's got children, it's unthinkable. But you know, the fact, like I said, the fact you're able to pivot and turn it into something positive is just
and listen,
incredible.
my whole thing is if I can get people to think differently and they can go home and spend time with their family and loved ones as a result of what they've learned, then it's working, right? Then I'm doing it. It's a very small piece. You know, life is rough, right? Nothing's guaranteed. We're not guaranteed anything. And so if I can get anyone watching this says, you know what? I do need to spend. I can take my kids to the park. I can take my kids to the movies. It doesn't even have to be this long. I don't have to go to African safari.
Right.
It's free. Memories are free. And you know, the one thing I will just say real quick is I used to think to myself, when he and I would ride motorcycles together, we'd be riding side by side. And I used to think, this is the coolest fucking thing in the world, man. I'm riding with my son. We're just doing what we love. Right. And it was free. It's like, you know, and I have that to cherish. Now, I also have a little bit of guilt because he passed away on a motorcycle.
Sure.
But by the same token, I have to think about this. He did what he loved doing, and I did what I loved doing, and we got to share that bond together. Yeah. And would it have been better to never share it? Yeah. And something happened? I don't know the answer to that, but
you can second guess that to death.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But I will say, I've had a lot of people on social media, a lot of friends, people that we both know, reach out to me and say, man, you know what? I'm changing how I handle my family because of how I saw how your son lived. Like they're like, I really am changing because of the way Jet lives.
So it's live like Jet?
Yeah, livelikejet.org. So it's
livelikejet.org. Go send some money there and go check out how this boy lived, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, you owe it to yourself to do that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
thank you very
absolutely.
much.
Well, listen, brother. Wow. I'm you know, speechless, but this has been a really enjoyable conversation and a very valuable conversation for my peeps. And I'm really grateful for you coming down here to have it with us. And how do people get a hold of you?
They can go to my website.
What is it?
Steve Rozenberg, ROZENBERG.com.
Okay.
Or I'm on social media. They can go to Instagram,
you're pretty
Facebook.
Big there. Yeah.
I'm very approachable. Right. Sometimes people, you know, what would you do here? Whatever. I'm happy to answer everything. I don't, you know, if I can help someone, I'm doing my job. So
I'm going to have you I'm having you come talk to my warriors for sure.
I'd love to.
There's people that already have businesses and need to know how to systemize and whatnot.
I'd love to be able to help. And again, I think that there's not enough of people like you and I. Right. I think the world needs more abundance. Right. And if I can impart just a little bit more to make people's lives easier, then I'm doing my job. Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, and I fall into it myself. I actually did yesterday. I got so much negative news yesterday that I had a little scarcity attack, you know, and forgetting that what I teach, which is we live in the most abundant situation there is. Exactly. I mean, abundance is everywhere.
Yeah. We don't have to fight for our food. No. We don't have tribes trying to kill us. I mean, we have first world problems.
Right, exactly.
And when you look at things, you're like, you know what? We're doing pretty good. And if we can share that with other people, when we get out of our pity party, you know, and we kind of we go, you know what? I got it pretty good. I mean,
no shit.
You know, I see where you live. It's not bad.
This doesn't suck, does it?
This doesn't suck, you know? So, and again, I think it's one of those things. Listen, we all get caught up in being caught up, but I think sometimes it takes someone or something to pull you back and go, hey, let's just put things in reality.
Let's look at this with real glasses on instead of the dark glasses. Well, listen, brother, I really appreciate you coming down here. It's been awesome to spend some time with you. And like I said, we need to go break bread. I can't today because I've got this freaking boot camp coming up, but we have to circle back and get together for sure, brother.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to. I think you and I are very like-minded people, and I think that energy is magnetic. Yeah, you know, and I think people can see it, and I think we could probably help a lot of people change some minds and change some lives.
Agreed. It's great to see you, brother.
Thanks. You, Rod. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yep. So one other quick thing. We encounter so many people that are frankly frustrated. They're looking in the mirror and they're frustrated that they haven't been able to escape the rat race. They haven't been able to build cash flow to the point where they're able to have financial and time freedom with their families. And maybe they see other people buying real estate and creating, incredible cash flow, and they think, well, it's just scary. Buying apartments is intimidating. And I get it. But see, that's why we created our Warrior Mentorship program. They're our coaching students, and they've had extraordinary results. My students, I've been teaching about 5 years, and they own upwards of 140,000 units now that we know of, right? And we feel like it's just getting going. Now we're looking to grow this group and really take it to the next level. And honestly believe that the greatest transfer of wealth could be upon us right now with this current economic environment. Everything's going on sale. So we're looking for people who want to follow a proven framework, really like a blueprint or a map, literally step by step. And then they're able to leverage our systems and our incredible network to raise money and equity, to find deals and close those deals and build partnerships really nationwide. So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become more in our incredible network and take advantage of the unbelievable opportunities that are upon us, you can apply to my Warrior Mentorship program by texting the word CRUSH to 72345, or you can go to mentorwithrod.com. And what we'll do is we'll set up a call so you can check us out and we can check you out and see if it's a fit. Now again, you can go to mentorwithrod.com or text the word CRUSH to 72345 to apply, and we will speak soon.